Hello everybody, welcome. I'm the Strategy Professor, and this is going to be episode 1 for our legendary Beastmen campaign for Total War Warhammer. And this is going to be a pure campaign, which means we're not going to abuse the auto-resolve system at all. We're not going to assassinate lords on the campaign map. We're not going to do any other exploits that make the game really a lot less fun to play and a lot less fun to watch. So I hope you'll enjoy this. We only have one mod, which is the Conquer Anywhere and Diplomatic Options mod. It's not really going to affect our campaign at all. I just run it with this because I have it in my other campaigns as well. The only impact this is going to have is it could potentially make other factions much stronger if they band together and confederate. So it might make it a little bit more challenging for us. So let's go ahead and get into the Beastmen here. Now, I have practiced with the Beastmen quite a bit. I've spent all day on release day trying to get you guys some good content, and I'm going to be honest, it is very, very hard. Very hard. It's very interesting, but it's extremely challenging if you don't abuse auto-resolve. If you abuse auto-resolve, I mean, you can probably cakewalk through it just like anything else, but it's very challenging. And I'll explain why once we get in there a little bit more. But first of all, the Beastmen are a highly mobile faction, and so you really need to use them for flanking. A lot of them can Vanguard deploy, a lot of them are very fast, and a lot of them have very high charge bonuses, but they have pretty low armor amounts. So that means that that you don't want to stand on a line. You don't just want to sit there and trade shots with the enemy. You're going to lose against almost any other faction in the game, especially on legendary difficulty. So you really want to make sure that you're taking advantage of those flanks and cycling charges. Second of all, I mean, they can't trade, so that's something to keep in mind. That really doesn't matter too much because most factions that can trade, such as the Dwarfs and the Empire, really don't get to trade a lot anyways on Legendary. Everyone hates you, everyone wants to come to kill you, so it's not really a huge deal that you can't trade. The same is true with strong diplomatic penalties. Almost everyone wants to fight you in every campaign, so it's not a huge deal that you have strong diplomatic penalties. You can confederate with other Beastmen. I haven't had this opportunity to try this out yet, but it sounds like it could be something that's really cool. Add a little bit of extra spice in there, give you a reason to keep your reliability rating up as much as possible, even though everyone's going to hate you and you're going to end up fighting everyone. I just want to say also about the Beastmen that this campaign is totally worth it. I am currently a little frustrated because I kind of got deep. I was recording episode 4 and I just got triple teamed and absolutely obliterated by Bretonnian units. But even still, I think I've had a blast playing it, even through some of the disappointments, even through some of the challenges. It's been a lot of fun, and I think they're the most strategically complex faction by a long shot so far. I've heard some people say, oh, it's just a reskin of orcs, or oh, it's just a reskin of chaos. I mean, that's just like saying, you know, carbon dioxide is just a reskin of carbon monoxide. It's like they just have carbon in them. It's like, no, they have a much different effect. You want to exhale one of them, you don't want to breathe the other one in. Or it's just like, you know, reading a novel and just saying, oh, it's got "the" in there a ton of times. It's just like every other book, right? Just a reskin of every other book because it's got articles in it. No, like the way that you arrange different strategic elements impacts, you know, how they affect the game and the kind of decision-making process that you have to go through. So it's very, very different. Having somewhat of a hybrid between Chaos and the Orcs, but then they have their own unique system with the Moon as well, and they have a constant ambush stance, which is unique. They have a different kind of underway. They're very, very different from other races, trust me, and that'll become apparent when we get into the campaign itself. But I just want to say this is not a reskin, it's not cheap, it's very well done, it's very challenging, it's excellent from a strategic point of view. It's definitely worth the $15 to $20. Just think about what $15 to $20 buys you these days. It might get you into a movie and buy you like half a popcorn. It might buy you half a date if you go out to a restaurant. It might buy you 2 fast food meals. It'll buy you 1 skin in League of Legends. It'll buy you 1 month for World of Warcraft subscription. It's 100% worth it. You will, if you play them on the Grand Campaign, you'll get at least 30 hours of gameplay out of that, if not more. I'm probably going to get 100 hours of gameplay out of it, honestly. So it's definitely worth your time. If you like strategy, if you like, you know, being in really tough situations all the time, this is your race. Initial challenge normal, that is ridiculous. This is really, really hard. I think it's honestly harder than Chaos, quite frankly. And Chaos is rated as hard, especially if you pick one of the legendary lords that I'm not going to pick. It's almost impossible. So, yeah, it's very, very challenging. So let's just go ahead and get in there, and we'll look it over. All right, so right off the bat, you have 2 different legendary lords you can choose from, and it's interesting, they have different start positions. This is the only campaign that has 2 different start positions for legendary lords so far. I know there's a mod that lets you move around a little bit, but this is very, very important to consider. So one of them starts just outside of Astalia, kind of in Talia, and the other one starts in the Badlands, so like right smack in the middle of the Badlands. This is extremely difficult. I mean, I don't even know if you could draw up a much more challenging start position than this, because you're completely surrounded by savage orcs and dwarves, and these are the most dangerous units in the entire game in the early game. I mean, savage orcs will just slaughter you early in the game. I played just one turn with each one of these lords just to kind of see which one I wanted to play, and I got killed on turn 1 with Malagor. I got attacked by savage orcs. I tried to fight it. The balance of power said I was like 60% favored, but I'm not going to use that, of course, because I want to fight real fights and I want a challenging campaign. And they just obliterated me. First of all, Malagor can't fight at all. He's an extremely weak shaman. Magic has been nerfed to the ground in this patch, and we'll explain why. I mean, to the ground is a strong saying, but it has been nerfed significantly if you're not a dedicated mage. I'll put it that way, and I'll explain that as we move into the campaign. So he can't fight. His magic is very weak. The units that you start with overall are very weak. The giant, of course, is quite strong, so he's good. But the Ungor Spearmen are, you know, a really weak starting unit, especially as one of your sort of premier units that you get. And the Chaos Warhounds are relatively weak at the beginning, too. I mean, maybe I should try him out, but I think that he's weak. I could be mistaken, but the major part of it is that he starts in the Badlands, and that's extremely difficult. I mean, yes, the Bretonnians and humans are challenging as well, but they're nowhere near as hard as dwarves or savage orcs early on. Like, trust me on that. You do not want to fight either one of those factions early. It's just asking for death, especially as the Beastmen. So, okay, and then your other choice, the one that I think you should take 100%, is Khazrak. So, Minotaurs are extremely strong. You will be blown away by how powerful these things are. I mean, on the charge, like, their stats look pretty good anyways, but I don't know what it is about them. They move really fast, and they're very thick and heavy, so their charge just absolutely blows units away. It's very, very strong. So these are awesome. They're a bit expensive. They're 350 gold per turn, which is called favor with Beastmen, but I'm just going to call it gold just for the sake of consistency. They're 350 gold, but they are definitely worth it. They're really strong. These are also tier 3 units here. They have Vanguard deployment, Goreherd axe infantry, so they're pretty good. I mean, you know, 32 melee attack, 30 weapon, and all of the Beastmen have this basically immune to psychology, +4 attack, and +6% speed. So they're all pretty strong in that respect. So this is a much better roster lineup to start with. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Giant is good, but these other units are even better than the Giant in combination with each other for the early game. His faction effects aren't really that strong, honestly. Income from raiding, I'm not sure about that yet. That might be okay. I had thought it was terrible the first couple of times I tried to play this campaign. And I have tried to play this a few times, and I haven't met with good results. Now, because it's extremely hard, and it has a huge learning curve to it. Like, do not play this as your first faction. It's very, very hard. It's like Warriors of Chaos on steroids. Like, this is an extremely difficult horde faction to play if you don't auto-resolve abuse. Oops, sorry. Popped out of there. And I have very successful legendary campaigns that we also just fight on pure. We don't do auto-resolve abuse, none of that for these other factions. And we have good, challenging, fun campaigns. But I'm telling you, this is a completely different beast. Pun intended, I guess. It's very, very good if you want a very strong challenge. So I don't know, maybe raiding is better than I think it is, but I don't usually think raiding is worth it. And the reason is, you're going to be sitting there raiding probably with a 2,000 gold army. And so any income that you earn is not going to be is not going to counteract the gold that you're going to lose for your army. Now, they can get a lot of bonus to rating. I mean, they can get upwards of 75% or more bonus to rating. So if you have a ton of rating, and I guess if you just have one unit that's sitting there rating, then perhaps you will be able to make some money off of it. I don't know. I think a combination that I really need to use more is have somebody raiding and have someone else hide an ambush stance and see if they come and attack you. Like, I really have to change and develop my tactics and think very carefully, because everyone guns for you. Everyone in this. They will just drop what they're doing and come kill you. At least in the last campaign, that's what I did. I mean, I had to fight, on their turns, I had to fight 3 different armies, 3 different 20 stacks on the same turn, and that's how I lost. It was like the third one was the straw that broke the camel's back there, because it was just too many units. I mean, we're talking like turn 7. Like 60 units coming at you in a single turn. It was incredible. We beat the first 2, and I was really happy and excited, and then the third one just barely got into range. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And the reason was he got to run away because, well, I won't go into it. It was very, very challenging, we'll put it that way. So, anyways, this is the guy that we're picking. Let's just go ahead and get in there. I'm gonna go grab a drink really quick and let you guys watch this cinematic.
Powers demand war on all civilization. The cloven ones answer the call. I am an emissary of such a cause. One that has spoken with brave shamans and knows their ways. I have sought out the One Eye, for his hatred of man reaches above all doors. He knows my scent and abides my presence. For now. Let us guide them to greatness. Show them where men are weak, lazy, unprepared. Thirsts for vengeance, but a single soul is not enough to appease the ruinous powers. They want it all. Send forth the Gores. Let civilization be torn asunder. Let the endless hunt begin. Dwigwis, a greeting in your tongue, my bestial lord. I know you feel a yearning to kill me, for I am but a man. But you have received the vision. You know who has sent me. My desire is as yours, to see the cloven ones tear down all civilization. So let us begin. To the north, past the...
Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and skip through that. Basically, he just takes you on a tour and says kill everybody. And there are just a few specific factions that you're supposed to kill, so let's look at the official victory conditions here. So it says you're supposed to destroy all these factions. I'm going to burn everything on the map. That's my victory condition. I want everything. I'm going to kill the orcs. I'm going to kill the chaos. I'm going to kill the varg. I'm going to kill everybody in all four corners of the map. Everything's going to burn. That's my victory condition. And if we do some of this along the way, great. But anyways, that's the victory condition. So we're going for a total domination victory here. So let me just go over just a couple of the key systems here that are really cool, and then we'll get into a fight. So I'll try to break up a little bit of the talking with the fighting, but I think it's really important to just explain some of these different strategic systems for people who haven't played the Beastmen before, because they're very complicated and they work in tandem with each other in some very interesting ways. So first of all, the completely new system is the lunar calendar here. So every so often, and it'll tell you, I think it's 7 turns every time, I'm not 100%, but you will get 4 options at the end of that. They seem to be randomized. The 2 times that I've gone to turn 7 on different versions of this campaign, I received slightly different options. A couple of them are the same, but a couple of them are different. And basically, it's a combination of a huge buff and a huge debuff, and you have to choose what's right for your specific situation. So for example, in my last campaign, one option was you could get a bonus 50 attack power, melee attack, so 50 melee attack on everybody, yes 50, that big, and 15% weapon strength. But in exchange, your campaign movement range was cut in half by 50%. So you could only move half your normal distance. So that would be something that you would want to take if you were really close to getting into a major fight. And I was, and I knew it. So even with 50 extra attack on all of my units, and I think I started with 22 units, I was able to beat back 2 20 stacks, but I lost to the third 20 stacks. Even with stats that are that huge, because Legendary, the stats are massive. You can't actually see them on the battlefield. All that you see is that they get a slight bonus to morale. That's not all they get. They get a ton of stuff. In fact, one of my subscribers in my dwarf campaign on episode 11, check it out. He left a link. His name is Zoo Devil, TZUDEVIL, and he has his own channel. He doesn't have a ton of videos, but he linked this one video that he just made, and it's awesome. It explains just how much those legendary stats impact the game, and he has nice charts, he has graphs, he has pictures, and he has examples from custom battles to show you. So it's really well done. I highly recommend that you go check it out. He also talks about just how much vigor matters, and he tells you when you're low on vigor, how that affects your combat stats, and a variety of other things. It's 9 minutes, it's pretty concise, it's got great visuals. I highly recommend checking it out. He's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing out there, Zoo. I really appreciate that. So I learned a lot from it, and I think you can too. And if you want to know other stats, check out the first 2 videos in the Dwarf campaign. I talk about how melee attack works, how melee defense works, how armor works, and how all 3 of those go together to create your overall combat effectiveness. I talk about just how effective armor penetration is versus in different scenarios, versus different types of units. So we talk a lot about stats for, probably at least 15 or 20 minutes in the first couple of episodes of the Dwarf campaign. So if you don't know exactly how armor works, or you're not quite sure how melee attack interacts with melee defense, it's not very clear in the tooltips. It's not your fault you don't know, right? I had to actually research this stuff and look it up to figure it out initially, so go check those out. I give timestamps in every single episode that I ever produce so that you can go and it's like a buffet. You can figure out exactly what you want to watch and go check it out. So if you don't want to watch the entire Dwarf episode, you can just go look at armor, or just go look at the melee attack, or just go watch battles if you want. of course, I want you to watch, every episode that I ever created from beginning to finish, right? That's the dream of any YouTuber, right? Who thinks they're creating some good quality content. But I know that realistically, a lot of you guys and gals probably, just don't have the time to watch all of that. And I understand. It's perfectly fine. So that's why I create that table of contents, so you can watch the video the way that you want to watch the video. So you can find that in every episode for each campaign. But anyway, so that's one option you could get for the Dark Moon. Some other options were you could get plus 30 to your Bestial Rage bar. In exchange, your upkeep would be an extra 33% per turn. So you get 10 per turn for 3 turns, and you get your upkeep cost increased by 33%. So it's at a pretty steep cost, but it would allow your army to get one of these extra hordes, which I'll talk about here in a second. But yeah, in other words, you can get super powerful good stuff off the Dark Moon, or off the full moon when it comes out, but it comes with severe drawbacks as well. So it's really hard to play around because you're not quite sure what's going to show up, but I imagine once you get kind of used to what's available, then you kind of keep it in your mind. Like, another one was, if you hire units, they cost twice as much, but they come with 6 free rank ups. So you get extremely talented, strong units as soon as you hire them, but they cost twice as much money. So if you suspect that might happen, you could wait for the moon. Another one was every unit in every army gets healed to full. But it was something like you can't recruit, though, or something like that. Like, I can't remember the exact drawback, but there's a lot of really good, interesting, quirky stuff, and so that's a very new mechanic that you really need to play around. Like, you have to have these bonuses. You have to measure them up, because just objectively, you're much weaker than every other faction that's around you, especially on Legendary. So you really have to be sneaky. You have to use ambushes. You have to use flanking properly. You have to make the most out of this Dark Moon. They get really nice bonuses to different stats, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. You have to pick the right bonuses. You have to pick the right units. So it is a very, very challenging mixture of very, very tough decisions. It's awesome. I love it. Even though I've lost a couple of campaigns early on trying out this stuff, I don't have a lot of experience with Horde campaigns. I've got the other Legendary campaigns going on this series, and I beat Total War Attila on Legendary as the Western Roman Empire, so I have lots of experience with, like, traditional towns, building up empires, defending cities, fighting in the normal way, but I don't have a lot of experience with Hordes. I never played a Horde faction in Attila. And I haven't played a lot of Chaos. I've played some. So this is fun for me learning this, but it obviously has a curve to it. So it's a very, very challenging campaign. But I've talked enough. Let's go ahead and get into a fight. So we're going to go down here and take Tabaro out. Now, this is a dangerous fight. Like, do not mistake this. It tells you 90%. Don't buy into that. If you're actually fighting an honest campaign, this is going to be hard, because these have legendary stats, and it's 5 on 6. Yes, they don't have a Lord, but I promise you, I've actually lost on the first turn in one of the campaigns when I tried this. Just from a very slight micro. I just didn't quite have the angle on a hill, and they had an uphill bonus on me, and I couldn't rectify that in time, and I'm pretty sure that's how I lost that fight. So it's very, very challenging. And I just want to say one final thing about auto-resolve here as well, that everybody's kind of thinking, I think, but I just want to put it to you in a way that just sort of hopefully will give you guys and gals some context on this. So everybody knows that auto-resolve isn't accurate for the most part, right? So it gives you way, way better odds than you would normally have, especially on Legendary. Like, I have no business winning this 90%. Most of the time. It's a challenging fight. I promise you, I'm going to lose more than a 10 to 1 on them. So in other words, I'm going to lose more than 1 unit every 10 that they lose, which is what this is telling me right now, roughly. So everybody knows that. But yet, so many streamers out there will just auto-resolve their way to victory. Like, I'll watch these streams, or like YouTube channels, and I'll see, 15 episodes, completed Legendary campaign. I'm like, how the heck did they do that? And I'll go watch it, and they go through like 10 turns per episode, and all they do is just spam auto-resolve on everything. They'll just get like a very generic composition, and they'll just spam auto-resolve all the way until they win. And they'll be like, this is boring, this game's easy, and just grumble about it and just say, I wish they'd do something about this auto-resolve. I might go play it again. Well, I'm telling you right now, I've found the solution. You guys want to know what it is? Don't click this button. Just don't do it. Like, that's the solution. You want the game to be hard? You think it's too easy? You think auto-resolve's broken? It's a real easy. Don't press it. Like, no one ever makes you push this button. Now, I will auto-resolve if, you know, we're just, like, taking a town and it's, like, 20 on 5 or something. Of course I'm going to auto-resolve. I'm not going to make you guys and gals sit through that. But just have some self-discipline. If you want a nice, honest, fun campaign, just don't press auto-resolve. Am I going to lose more units in this? Absolutely. And will my campaign take a lot longer than other campaigns? Absolutely. Do you know why? Because manual fights take time. I've heard people say, oh, fights are done in, you know, 2 or 3 minutes. Like, this game's terrible. I'm like, what kind of fights are you fighting? Because the kind of fights that I'm fighting last quite a long time. Because you have to position very carefully. Like, it's hard on Legendary. Like, you're often outnumbered. They have way better stats than you. It's really, really hard a lot of the times. It's not a joke, so you have to position, you have to get every advantage you can possibly get, and a lot of fights will take 10 or 15 minutes. I think it's a perfect balance. Like, I think you have plenty of time to readjust your tactics most of the time, get the kind of matchups that you want to get, and use really good strategic planning and execution to have a good fight. I mean, what else do you want? Why do you want a fight to take an hour if you get the matchup that you want? I don't get it, but anyways, so just... if you want a good, hard, clean campaign, just don't press the auto-resolve button. And, you know, I've heard people saying also things like, oh, well, why can't Creative Assembly just get it right? Why can't we, quote-unquote, fix the auto-resolve? How do you fix it? How can you possibly create a computer-generated system that's going to be able to predict how every single player plays the game and is going to accurately assess that with a yellow bar? Like, how's it going to know if that player's going to flank, if that player's going to fight it straight up, who they're going to cast their spells on, when they're going to cast their spells, if they're going to miss micro? Who's going to be able to calculate that? That's impossible. You can't do that with current technology. So there's no way it can be quote-unquote fixed. It's supposed to be a very simple tool for if you have overwhelming odds and you just don't want to do the 20 versus 5 to save a little bit of time, but everyone abuses it. Or not everyone, but a lot of people that I see abuse it. So, it can't be fixed. I mean, just think about it this way. You can cheat and steal and do all kinds of things in life every single day to get advantages on people. Like, you could probably do it if you practice it enough where no one's going to notice, and you're going to gain little advantages here and there. You can hustle people all the time, but, like, why? Why do that when you could just get happiness by earning the victory, when you can go out and do things and earn things? Like, it just feels so much better when you feel like you've earned it. So that's how I feel with this campaign. Let's just go ahead and get in there. I've talked enough. But that's my sort of minor rant about people who complain about auto-resolve. Just don't press it. Can you abuse it? Absolutely. Do you have to? Absolutely not. Like, no one makes you press the button. So if you're a person that likes to auto-resolve a lot and you think that the game's a little too easy, or you know, you just want a little bit more of a challenge, then just do yourself a favor and don't auto-resolve. I promise you, it makes the experience much better when you win those really hard fights. It's just going to feel a whole lot better. Okay, so this is much more challenging than it appears, as I've said before. So I want to kite with these. They're going to start on that hill up there. I think I want to use these as my flankers. So I want to just hang out with them in the woods over here. They don't have stalk, right? No, I need to utilize stalk a lot more. Oh, they do have stalk. Okay. What stalk means is that you can walk and they're not going to see you as long as you don't get that close to them. So that means I theoretically could hide. I mean, in the woods is a fine place to hide. This is fine. But they won't see you even if you're not in the woods. So I could just put units right here and they wouldn't see me until they came up close. So the night goblins have this ability also. It's kind of like cloak. And I really need to utilize that a lot more to gain advantages, especially in places that don't have a lot of foliage. Okay, so I want to use this guy to face tank a lot of that because he has huge armor. No one else has very good armor. I mean, they all have like 15 armor. So I want to use him to tank a lot of the fight. And then also use the spearman. and then kite with my archers. So let's go ahead and start. Put skirmish mode on, and then I just want to kite. This is just an old I played StarCraft way back in the 90s, and then with Warcraft 3 and things like that, just with micromanagement, I just always put kind of my good commander unit on 0 for some reason. It's just a weird habit that I have. Usually I'll put the spellcaster there. I used to put like observers there, overlords, just things like that I wanted to keep track of. That needed special micromanagement for scouting or things like that. So it just looks kind of weird. But if you guys haven't wondered about the foliage, this was driving me crazy forever. You can hold down the space bar, and then you can go to hide foliage and click that. And then if you mouse over the foliage, then it loses all of its leaves. So you can actually see in there and micro your units. So that was driving me crazy for the longest time until I figured that out. Alright, so we're going to go up here. Actually, I'm just going to go right here with these units. So I did this with some success last time. I want to try to split these guys up. I think I really need to leverage the Bray Herd mechanic a lot more. We'll talk about that after this episode. I just wanted to break it up with a little bit of fighting here. But I think that's my biggest mistake, is I haven't been able to leverage that much. It's very tricky, and you'll see why as the campaign unfolds, but it's very tricky to balance that with your other responsibilities. So you always want to make sure your units stay fresh as well. Anytime you fight, they get massive, massive penalties if you start losing vigor. So just check out Sue Devil's Dwarf video number 11 on my channel. Check out his comment, check out his video. He explains it very, very well with awesome graphs, but just trust me, you don't want to fight if you're going to be winded. Hidden units revealed. Oh, do these guys have Stalk also? Oh, dang, I didn't realize they had Stalk. Ungor Raiders. Sweet. Fresh. Okay, so we're just trying to get a good shot in. Alright, so one shot. Oh, sweet. Shoot him. Run, 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 run. Shoot him, and then we're running. Can we get one more volley in? So we get one more volley in. And we're out. Okay. Now these guys are very fast also. Run. There we go. Why can't I run? Am I just walking? Or am I running? I can't tell. Moving fast, okay. Oh, it's because I'm on skirmish mode. I think, right? Yeah, there we go. Take off skirmish mode so I can actually run. So they're actually quite fast. They have 38 speed for archers, so I should be able to outrun them. So I'm still fresh. So they have very good vigor too, it seems. So I want to hit the swordsmen because they... Actually, do these guys have speed? These guys might not have shields, so maybe I do need to aim for. Okay, so I want to hold these guys in place and shoot them in the back. Start bringing these guys in. Oh geez, these guys are going to get ganged. Okay, so I have skirmish mode on, so they should be able to run out of that. Now, I should have started moving over here a little bit earlier, probably. These spearmen are going to lose a lot of units. There's no way around that. They're getting ganged. Let's go over here and fight this guy, actually. Just to try to get a little bit of heat off of these spearmen. Get a good charge into the back there. Yeah, I'm probably going to lose most of my spearmen here. They're very cheap to replace, though, so I'm okay with that, I think. Actually, let me just go ahead and charge them. I thought about charging them, but yeah, my guys are running now. It's not the end of the world. It's fine. So I just... That's fine, because these guys are going to break. And I should be able to just keep shooting these dudes in the back. So this should be fine. So shooting people in the back, always a good option. And the reason for that is their shields don't work if they get shot in the back. I've had somebody ask me, well, who cares if you shoot them in the back? You can just shoot them normally. Well, their shields don't work if you shoot them in the back. Also, you're much less likely to friendly fire your own people if you shoot them in the back. Because, see, they are taking most of the shots, where if I shot from this way, my guys, I would actually get hit in the back a lot. This friendly fire is a huge deal. Kill as many of these as you can. So the reason that you shoot in the back, one, a lot less friendly fire. You're going to hit your own people a lot less. Also, if you do happen to hit your own people, at least they're going to be facing you with their shield. So it's going to block some percentage of those shots. Also, it causes a morale penalty if you shoot people in the back. So they're much more likely to run if you shoot them in the back. So they get less blocks, you're less likely to hit friendly fire. You can actually block it if you do get friendly fire, and you cause a morale penalty. So that's 4 really strong reasons to try to shoot things in the back. Now you're not always going to be able to position and get good shots in the back. Alright, let's go ahead and light them up. You're not always going to be in a good position to get that, but if you can, you definitely should try for it. Alright, let's run. Get him, guys. Why are you stopping? Go. And I've also had somebody ask me, I think he's a subscriber. He's commented on a lot of stuff. I hope he's subscribed, because I've had some great conversations with him. I'm blanking on the name, so I apologize. You know who you are. We've had some great conversations over the last couple of days. But he has asked me, well, why do you always chase down these units, right? Because, especially the garrison, because everyone's going to die if it's the garrison anyways. And my response to that is, I might shoot my own guys. I think I'm going to stop, so I don't shoot my own guys. My response is, you get money and experience based on how many people you kill in the actual, in the battle. You don't get money and you don't get experience for everyone that dies at the very end. Also, in particular, if you don't kill the Lord, then you don't get the money or experience, or even the item that he might drop. So that's why I run everything down. Now, usually I'll do it a little bit faster than this. I'm just talking anyways. There's things that I need to talk about here, so it's not an unproductive use of time. But a lot of times I will just speed it up at the end a little bit. But you need to kill everything. You need every piece of gold you could possibly get, or favor, or whatever you want to call it. You need every possible advantage you can possibly get. That's a lot of possibles. But you need it all. Because if you're not gonna cheat the system, if you're not gonna abuse auto resolve, that means you're gonna have more casualties every battle, and the game is just gonna be much, much harder. It's basically a completely different game if you don't abuse auto resolve. So you need that. You need advantages. Every penny matters, especially with the Beastmen. They are a very, very hard race to play correctly. So every penny matters. Every experience bar matters. Okay, we'll go ahead and end it. So I won that pretty decisively. The Spearmen, we got kind of a tough break with that, unfortunately, but it still ended up being okay. So look at that. I got a 3-to-1 on them, roughly. 3 and some change. So that means that I should have been about a 70 to 75% favorite instead of a 90% favorite. So relatively small example. And I had pretty good micro there. I let my Spearmen kind of get wrapped up in some bad things. They just got overloaded with 3 or 4 units on them. So that was bad. But I positioned pretty well to get good shots with these crossbowmen. I mean, they killed 152 and 103. These guys killed almost nothing. So they're really fast, they have stalk, so you need to use them to get around a flank. That was another major mistake in my other campaigns. I didn't get enough of these guys. You really need a lot of Ungor Raiders. Like, I mean, they're terrible. Like, they don't deal that much damage, but there's something. And the number one way that you will die, if you're going the Bretonnian route here, is by either pistoliers or whatever the equivalent is with Bretonia. Those just mounted archer units are just the devil. Like, you can't run them down, you can't flank them, you can't kill them. They're so aggravating, so you really need a lot of these. I'm talking like 6 or 7 of these at least in your battalion. Are they strong? No. But you can at least get flank shots because they're very fast. So you can flank around, get some good shots, and most importantly, you can just take down those mounted cavalry. Because these guys will kill mounted cavalry, because there's so many of them in a stack. And 120, and most mounted cavalry has 60. So you will still beat them, even though these guys have pretty garbage stats. Okay. I love this. This is such a tough choice. This looks almost like Skaven here, but it's not. It's a Beastman. I really hope they release Skaven soon. I love it. I suspect they're probably going to do Wood Elves next, because they already have kind of a spot laid out for them in the Bretonian area. And Wood Elves would be cool too, but I really love the Skaven from a Ward perspective. Okay, so this is an extremely hard choice, and I love it. It's great. So you need Horde Growth. We'll talk about what Horde Growth is here in a second. We might have to do it next episode. I didn't actually get the time when I started. I was just so frustrated from losing the last campaign that I just basically rage queued a reset of the campaign here, because I really want to get you guys these videos, guys and gals. I've been practicing and then just getting wrecked for a lot of the day, learning how to play the Beastmen, trying different things out, just so I can give you high quality content. And rest assured, I'm not going to release this. I'm going to make sure I have at least 8 to 10 good videos before I even release the first one. So you can rest assured, if I'm releasing videos, it means that I have a decent campaign going. I'm not just going to release a video and die on turn 2. Like, that's not going to show up on the YouTube channel. I might die on turn 30 or 40. Who knows? I can't read the future, and I don't want to do 100 turns before I release it. I could die, but usually if I can make it through the first 15 turns or so, then it's probably going to be a pretty good campaign. I can wiggle my way out of a lot of tough situations, as I've done in past campaigns, or I guess current campaigns that are still running. But anyways, so if you see it, rest assured it's going to be good content. You're not wasting your time watching a couple of videos. It is going to be a good, solid campaign. Or I won't release it. I'll just start over and just keep going until I get a good, solid campaign. I don't mind doing that. I'm old school. I love hard games. I grew up with the NES. You guys, you don't even know. Like, that was a way of life, was dying and losing a lot back in the day with regular Nintendo and Super Nintendo to a slightly lesser extent. Like, I'm used to losing. I'm used to having fun. Like, I think I'm a good player. I do well at most games, but I have no problem losing. So, I mean, for Civ 5, before I won my first deity campaign, I don't even know how many campaigns I lost trying to win for the first time. It was a lot. I mean, XCOM or XCOM 2, if you've ever tried to play XCOM, Long War, Beta 15 or higher on Iron Man Impossible, you had better learn how to lose, because that game is, like, really, really hard. So anyways, I don't mind losing with the Beastmen. I just want to make sure that I give you guys good quality content. So I just don't want to... I would rather not lose. But as long as I'm learning and making progress, I think that's a good thing. But anyways, I really love this decision. This is so much better than what goes on in the Chaos campaign, so unless they fix the Chaos campaign. So what would go on in Chaos is you would get a decision kind of like this. You could either sack something, or you could burn it. If you burned it, you got growth. If you sacked it, you got gold. Well, here, you have to make a choice. You cannot do both. In the Chaos campaign, you can sack it, and then sometimes, I think on the same turn, you might be able to raise it. I can't remember. You might have to wait until the next turn, but either way, you get both. You can have your cake and eat it too in the Chaos campaign, and I'm pretty sure you get more gold when you sack things than you get with the Beastmen. But here you have to choose. You only get one, and you must choose, and you need both of these desperately. Growth is very, very hard to come by, and you need it to tech up, as is gold. Gold is very hard to come by, or favor, rather. But I'm going with gold. This is the huge mitigating factor. You do start out with 4 growth with each one of your hordes, so you have some nice growth. Okay, that's pretty terrible. I mean, none of the stuff around me is going to have flying units early in the game, so that's okay. You can't win them all. This is good, though. That's really good. Because as you get more chaos in an area, I believe that helps your regeneration quite a lot and gives you other stats too. I'm not quite sure. Let me see. Corruption +2, +1 in adjacent provinces. That's really nice for spreading corruption. Let me see what it does. Cause armies to suffer attrition, and you get forces of either Chaos or Vampire Council show up. I wonder if Beastmen can show up too. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, but it's really good. I know with the vampires, you get a lot of replenishment if you're on Vampiric Corruption, and you get a lot of public order. So obviously public order doesn't matter with these guys. It'd be really cool if it gave you like bonus bestial rage or something. I don't know. Let me check the time here really quick. So forgive me, this is going to be a little immersion breaking, but I just got so wound up after losing that campaign and rage queuing that I forgot to write down the time here. Okay, so we're at about 45 minutes. So we'll go a little bit over on the first couple of episodes, but I would like to get to about 45 minutes per episode. But the first couple of episodes, I'm going to have a good manual fight, because we're going to get another one next episode. I'm going to jump over this wall, and we're going to fight Bilbali, so we're going to have 2 good fights. But I also just want to go over all the strategic systems, at least a little bit, just so that you kind of understand and can appreciate what's going on. So where to begin? Let's start with stances first here. Okay, so the Beastmen have very unique and interesting stances, and a very conspicuous absence. They cannot march. If you see here, there is no march stance, which means your movement is severely limited. You cannot run from things. That's part of the reason why I died in the last campaign, is I got caught up and surrounded by 3 different armies, and I couldn't run away. So you can only do a normal move, which is very important, because in other campaigns, I do this, and the AI does this a lot too, is let's say that there's an army that's sitting right here really close to me with this unit. I can't get there with normal move. I could probably get to about right here with a normal move. But if I was in march stance, I could march all the way up here and support this army if I attacked. Now, you can't engage a fight with march stance, but you can support an army who is engaging if you're in march stance. Now, your units are going to start tired in the battle, but usually if you do something like that, you're going to have such superior numbers most of the time that you're going to be able to win the fight anyways. So that's something that I'm really going to have to wrap my mind around, because I'm so used to that tactic. But you can't do it with the Beastmen. So it forces me to think in a very different way. That absence right there, no march stance, is massive. I mean, that right there alone, forget everything else the Beastmen have going on, that right there alone changes the entire way that you have to play the game. Like, and all of my strategic thinking, all my instincts are going to be wrong, because I'm thinking I might be able to do march stance. So I just have to completely like restructure my brain for the Beastmen here, because I don't have march stance. And you take it for granted so much, because I'm just used to having march. Not only can you reinforce, but let's say that let's say there are 2 armies here. Let's say there's an army here for some reason. You can't actually walk on this train, but just pretend with me for a second. Let's say there's an army here, and there's an army right here. All right, let's say I come out of town, engage this army. They run away. All right, I chase them here with a normal move, fight them, beat them up. They all die. I'm out of movement speed, however, with my normal movement. But now I can march and run back to town to protect myself within the walls of the town. Beastmen can't do that. If I run out of normal move right here, this army is going to flank around, attack me, chase me, kill me. So that's a very simple sequence that happens quite a lot, where you can attack someone and then use your run to get somewhere else really important on the next move. Whether it be in a town or to, get within support range of this army, or just to position better so that I'm going to be able to attack another town. I mean, maybe I fight here. Let's say there's someone like right here, and this town's perhaps a little bit closer. Let's say it was like right here. I could go over here, fight, chase, kill right here, and then let's say there's an army running back to defend this town. Well, now I could march stance all the way down to here, and then I could fight them before they got to the town. That's another common sequence. Like, there's so many things that I take for granted that I just don't even think about, because it's second nature, that you can do with a march stance that you just can't do with the Beastmen. So It's a very conspicuous absence. Okay, so they don't have march stance. It changes the entire paradigm of the game. So be ready for that if you want to play Beastmen. But what do they have if they don't have march? Well, they can actually ambush on the attack, which is a completely new paradigm as well. So traditionally you have to sit there with ambush and they have to walk near you, and then you might get to ambush them. If you attack, you have a chance to ambush, which means you get to completely surround them and flank them with all your units, which is exactly what you want to do with the Beastmen most of the time. So ambush is awesome, so you can use it aggressively. Also, if you just normally move, you can move your full movement range. Like, I could just still move with this guy all the way to here, all the way down here, and like I could go to the very end, and I'm just naturally going to be in ambush stance at the end, which means I'm going to be partially invisible to the enemy, and if they walk near me and I'm not detected, then we'll have an ambush fight. So they naturally just have ambush if they move, which is sweet. So you can attack and you're naturally in ambush. So that's awesome. Also, you have the beast paths. Now, I haven't had a beast path fight yet, but it sounds pretty sweet. So this is basically like the underway fight, and this is so awesome. I love this mechanic so much. So what this means is you can pretty much teleport to anywhere within range. You just kind of find a secret path that no one else knows about, and you're able to get there. It's just like the Dwarven Underway, or the Greenskin Underway. So this has a lot of advantages that I talk about in both the Greenskin and the Dwarf campaign, and I'll reiterate here really quickly. So, you know, the first instinct, if you see an ability like that, it says you can be intercepted, right? And that's bad, that you can't retreat, and if you lose the battle, you're going to get wiped out. Well, that's true, but think about it in reverse. If the enemy loses the battle, they're going to get wiped out. So one of the most annoying things that can possibly happen in Warhammer, so far that I've seen, is you attack a unit, they run away, and you don't have enough movement to chase them. Well, now you're in a predicament, because you're going to have to keep chasing with your 2,000 gold or more army, and they're going to have a smaller depleted force. So you're wasting 2,000 gold a turn to chase them. Or you don't chase them, and they just keep running around, raiding your stuff, sacking your villages, perhaps even raising stuff. In my case, they would just be repopulating things that I've already raised, probably, would be the annoyance factor. So that's really, really aggravating. I'm dealing with that in almost every campaign at this point. The vampire counts are probably abusing me the most with backdoors, but it's just something that you have to deal with. But if you have this underway, you can design an army that has just about even units with them, maybe even slightly less units. So if they have a 20 stack, get a 17 stack, use the underway, pop up right next to them, and a lot of times they will engage the fight because they think they're going to win. But if you have good strategic planning and good upgrades on your units, and use good tactics in the fight, you can actually kill them in the tunnels. And if you kill them in the tunnels, they can't run. It's awesome. They can't run away if you kill them in the tunnels. So don't think of this as super risky. You should acknowledge the risk of it. But think of it as an opportunity to kill other factions, and they can't run, and it feels glorious. It's one of the best feelings in Warhammer that I've had, is killing a unit in the underway and they can't run with a nice bait. Oh, it's glorious. And we do that all the time. Well, not all the time, but with a decent amount of frequency, and with the dwarves and the greenskins. It's really cool. So now I can bring that tactic to this campaign as well. Also, you know, you get to pretty much go anywhere. So that's pretty sweet too. You can get across rivers, which are super annoying, forests, mountains, everywhere. So that's pretty sweet. Just be aware that if you do try to get away and you don't want to get intercepted, just be careful because you might get intercepted. You're also immune to attrition. So if you're in a strange place, if you're like in the Badlands, or you're in a bunch of vampiric corruption or something and use the underway, it makes you immune to attrition. Alright, hidden encampment. Now, I think this is similar to ambush. I'm not sure. It says hidden until discovered. So this is how you can sit there and make buildings. And we'll talk about buildings in the next episode. We're going to run out of time here. We're looking on time anyways. Let's see. We still have a few more minutes. Well, we might be able to talk about this episode. We'll see. But hidden encampment, you just basically, you're able to make your buildings and recruit, but you can't move. So if you've never played a horde faction, you have to sit still for a turn to make buildings and to make units. And whenever you make buildings, it stays with your horde. So let's say that I want to make, just my core building. I want to upgrade it and go Hag Tree Cops. I get that anywhere I go on the entire map with this one army, but no other army gets the benefit of that. So you carry all of your buildings with you effectively. So that's good and bad in many respects. It's impossible to backdoor and attack your buildings, like what can happen with other factions, as long as your unit never loses. Now, if you lose a battle, it actually tears up a lot of your buildings. I learned that, which is interesting. When I lost the last campaign, your buildings can get damaged if you lose fights. So just don't ever lose fights. But yeah, that's pretty cool. It's just kind of your standard building. Notice you do lose some bestial rage if you encamp. So you lose a little bit every turn. We'll talk about the rage meter just as soon as I talk about this last stance. Okay, so the final one is rating. This is your, general rating stat. Now look, I only get 104 income from rating right now if I were to raid this. And my army is costing 1,300 gold. So I'm effectively, every time I raid, I'm losing 1,200 gold. So it's not really worth it, I don't think, unless you get huge modifiers and you're just raiding a super rich province. I just don't think it's worth it most of the time. I mean, okay, you're gonna give them -5 growth. Who cares? They're gonna have so much growth, it's not gonna matter. You're gonna cause some public order problems. It's not gonna matter. The computer gets like 10 or 15 extra free public order. It's not gonna matter on Legendary. Now you do get +2 bestial rage, so that can be good. So, for instance, if you're just like paused at 78 here on this bar and you need to get to 80 to get that bonus army, then that will help you get up to there. So, there's a few places where I might raid occasionally, but I'm probably not going to do it a lot unless I'm trying to bait a fight, which I might do more often. We'll see. Okay, so that's it for the stances. So lots and lots of awesome action here, mostly because you're missing the march stance and you have underway and you can ambush on the attack. So, really, really sweet. This is by no means a reskin, as I said at the beginning of this. This is very new, very different. It will make your brain hurt if you try to think about all these options. If you're a really serious Total War player, you've played a lot of Total War, and you love strategery, to use a George W. Bush word from the early 2000s, you love some good strategery, then this is for you. Okay. Bray herds. This is very similar to the orcs. So, whenever you win a fight, you're gonna get a lot of this bonus, like rage. You can think of it that way. And as soon as you get to 80, then it spawns a free 20 stack that you don't have to pay for. Usually of pretty low tier units, and you can direct that unit to go anywhere you want to on the map. Now, they don't have to listen to you. You don't have full control over them, but you can kind of guide where they'll go. So it's very similar to the greenskins. The only difference is there are some interesting drawbacks. I don't know if they changed it this patch. I haven't played the greenskins yet this patch. But if you hand off units from one faction to another, you can actually lose bestial rage. So it's very important to keep in mind you don't want to be handing off a ton of units. You have to have 17 units in your army to get the extra army. So you always have to have 17 units. If you get the army and you drop below 17 units, the army dies immediately. You have to keep 17 units. So you can't just get 17 with one army, get your rage meter up, and then hand it off to another army, and then get your rage meter up. You have to have 17 in both armies if you want two bonus armies. There are other things that take it out. So if you take over if you beat an army in a fight, then a lot of times you'll have an option of taking gold or just destroying them and getting some leadership or growth. Replenishment with your army. So pretty standard with other factions. But if you take the money, it's also going to hurt your bestial rage. So it's a big time trade-off there. And if you encamp, you lose bestial rage. If you raid, you gain some bestial rage. So it's a very interesting mechanic. It's really cool. I'm looking on time. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up for this video. So at the start of the next video, we will get another good fight in with Bill Bali over here. We'll talk about techs, we'll talk about buildings, and we'll talk about the skills as well for the lords. So we have a skill point here. We'll go ahead and divvy that up. But I definitely don't want to go over an hour if I can help it. So we'll keep it 45 minutes to an hour. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. I love the Beastmen. They are a ton of fun to play. They're probably my favorite faction so far, even though they're super challenging, even though I've gotten my butt kicked all day trying to get you guys some good content, just learning the ropes of this faction. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I highly recommend, if you're thinking about getting this, watch my campaign, watch a few episodes, see what you think, but I highly recommend, if you're up for the challenge, just going for it. So it's a lot of fun. I imagine it's a lot of fun on lower difficulties too. There's just so many different options you can do with it. It's really, really cool. So watch a few other videos. If you enjoy them, consider liking, subscribing, just watching more videos, commenting on videos, telling your friends about it. Anything you can do to help gain visibility for this channel, I would greatly appreciate, because I'm still very new to YouTube. I think I only have 52 subscribers as of this video, which is awesome, and I appreciate every single one of you out there. But it really makes a huge difference to me. I mean, if you subscribe to a channel that has 90,000 subscribers, it's just a drop in the bucket. It's not really going to be a huge deal to them. It's not really going to change how YouTube prioritizes what they do. But with me, every single subscriber is a huge deal. I've only been around for about a month and a half. And I know there's people out there that would enjoy watching a nice, good, clean campaign with no auto-resolve abuse, no other exploits. They'd love it. They just might not be able to find me because I'm so new. So I publish a huge volume of content. Every day, I would say on average, I probably release at least 3 to 6 videos, constantly coming out with new stuff. I'm just trying to flood YouTube with videos so they have to pay attention to me, so that people can find my content. But anything you can do with to interact with the videos just helps out a ton. So I really appreciate it. And the people who are able to find my videos because you interacted with them, because YouTube recognized that this is decent content that we have going on here, they're going to appreciate it too. They'll never say it, they'll never know they found the video because of you, but you'll know, because I'm telling you right now, it makes a huge difference, any sort of interaction that you can do with the videos. And I'm really good about responding to comments too. I usually respond within 24 hours to most comments, so sometimes within an hour if I see it. And if you're not quite sure if you want to interact with the videos yet, just check out some more. We're going to have lots of Beastmen. I'm going to release, all of these videos as soon as possible. There's going to be at least 8 of them before I put any of them on YouTube. We also have Dwarf Campaign, Empire, Greenskins, just everything except for Chaos so far. We will do Chaos eventually, but not yet. For Total War Warhammer, we also have a League of Legends sort of subsection of the site where I try to get to Diamond ranked by only playing support every single game. I don't have a consistent duo queue with me. There's no other kind of tomfoolery. I'm not boosted. I do this every season. I've never quite gotten to Diamond, but I've gotten to Platinum 1 a ton of times, only playing support, solo queue every single game. So go check it out. We do it just with strong strategic thinking, knowing matchups, and just really good, smart gameplay. I'm 32. I don't have cat-like reflexes anymore. I don't have pro gamer reflexes anymore. I just rely on just good skill and good planning, both in that game and in Total War. And then we also have educational content. I teach at a major university in the United States. I teach persuasive writing and English literature. My specialty is 19th century British literature. So I have a lot of experience grading essays, helping students compose essays, working with students after they graduate to help them get into law school. I've helped people get into med school. I've helped people do all kinds of wonderful things by helping, edit their work, give them some pointers on how to write good cover letters, how to write good entrance essays, all of that stuff. And I want to bring that expertise to you. I want to show you how to get an A in all of your humanities classes, to get that job that you want to get into that grad school that you want to get into the undergraduate university that you want to get into if you haven't gone to a university yet or you're thinking about it. So I'm going to create an entire series of videos for that. So far there's only a couple of videos there, but I'm going to add a lot more once school season gets back into the swing of things. Stuff like how to write a better research paper, how to improve your persuasiveness in your writing, how to write a good cover letter, how to improve the style of your essay. Just tons and tons of things that I think will be very helpful. So if you're in school or you're thinking of going to school in the near future, or you have friends, siblings, relatives that go to school, then direct them to the page. We have lots of great content coming out for that, or we will very soon. So thank you very much. I had a wonderful time broadcasting for you. Please join me for the next episode. I think we've definitely learned some things, or I have, from the last few attempts that I've had all day. So I think we're ready. I think this is it. I can feel it. We're gonna have an awesome campaign here. So I'm definitely looking forward to the next episode, and I hope you are too. So have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you next time.